I was going to start by talking about the history of the partnership and so on. Do any of you need to hear that, or do you think you know? What I mean, it's brief.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind hearing.
Yeah.
I was just
Okay.
telling my husband that that we've had some of these churches. Our churches have had these relationships for a long time, and then they kind of went, fell away or to COVID
Yep.
or whatever. Yeah, I'd like to hear.
Yep. Okay. The official partnership began in 1995, but the first kind of, seeds that were planted came from 1990 when Guy Edmiston, who was Bishop of Lower Susquehanna Synod, met Bishop Amon Mwakisunga, who was Bishop of the Konde Diocese, at a Lutheran World Federation meeting in Brazil. They met each other and they talked and they decided that they wanted to be companions. And the ELCA had hatched this idea of partnerships in pretty much in 1989 after it was created. And so that's what they were kind of aiming for, Lower Susquehanna Synod and Konde Diocese. And then in 1995, they actually signed a formal covenant between the two of them. Of course, since that time, we've had lots of exchanges of pastors and other people. Every Lower Susquehanna Synod bishop has visited Konde Diocese at least once. And every bishop from Konde Diocese has visited the United States, except for Bishop Maikali, the previous bishop, who was the subject of the conflict. In fact, I think he had actually visited the United States, but he wasn't bishop at the time. And Bishop Mwaki Haba, the current bishop, has also been there because he served as assistant to the bishop or dean under Bishop Israel Peter Mwakiolile for some years before he was elected bishop. So he has been there as dean, but he will be there next year in October for the installation of the new bishop, whoever that is, at the invitation of Bishop Dunlop. So we know that he will be coming. We've had, over the years, we've had 9 Konde pastors who've studied at Gettysburg Seminary. They're all leaders in the church in one way or another. We have the 9th one just finished and came back to Tanzania, Emmanuel Mchomvu. Any of you got a chance to meet him or see pictures of him around the synod? He actually did his first year online and then went in person for his second year. He really liked that model a lot. He's going to have some discussion, I'm sure, with Bishop Mwaki Haba and the dean as to whether they want to continue that kind of thing or not. I'm certainly hoping that they do. We had a new pastor from the diocese every 2 years up through 2017. And then we stopped because that was the point at which the seminary was starting to go through the merger or consolidation or whatnot with Philadelphia, and the curriculum was, a mess, and they just didn't want to mess with it by having a Konde pastor come. And then, of course, COVID hit and no one could come. So now that we've gotten Emmanuel, back into that stream, I'm really hoping that will continue. I started working in Konde Diocese in 2021, called by church council to serve in Konde Diocese, and I'm the first synod staff person, to reside in Konde Diocese on a permanent basis. The purpose of my position, is to be a direct link, to be the face of Lower Susquehanna Synod in Konde Diocese, and to serve as a direct link in the diocese to foster communication between the synod and the diocese, and between institutions and congregations, and so on. So my major roles include communication and education. That's what I spend most of my time doing. Communication in a lot of our partnerships. When I started in 2021, we had a list of, I think it was 57 partnerships that we had, on the books. And many of them had lapsed because of difficulties in communication, particularly in Konde Diocese. And COVID as well. And following COVID, then a number of congregations that I contacted when I was home last fall. I contacted quite a few pastors of partnerships that I wasn't really sure about, and chatted with pastors, or sometimes just the secretary in the office. And if the secretary in the office had heard of the partnership, then I felt pretty good about it. But, well, probably it's working in some way if the church secretary is aware of it. But I found out in a couple cases that there's just no interest anymore in the congregation, that because of COVID, financial resources have dwindled, and membership has dwindled, and the energy or ability to maintain a kind of a global partnership is just not there. I always try to encourage these pastors or whoever I'm speaking with that you don't have to send money if you don't have money. If your congregation doesn't have money, that's okay. That's not a required aspect of partnership. If you would consider just continuing the relationship in order to pray with your partner, that is something. And that's actually more important to the people in Konde Diocese than the money they receive. And I will continue to spread that word. So the communication that I do is trying to connect the churches in Konde Diocese with their partners in the United States. I'm working on completing a partnership list that has the name of the pastor with an email and phone number if they have an email, and the name of the partnership chair, committee chair, or a contact person in the parish, and their phone number and email. And that is generally someone who speaks some amount of English, so that they could, at least send messages to me or talk to me, or send messages to their partner congregation. So I have about half of that list completed. I've tried to go through the district pastors to get that information, and some of them have responded and some of them haven't. So I'm still working on that, but that's a big chunk of the communication. And we have a couple partnerships that have been resuscitated because I was able to gather that information and provide it to the church in the US. And like Advent in York is just, they're sending letters back and forth like every 3 weeks. They're sending an email back and forth. It's just, and they copy me on all the emails. So I'm watching what's happening, and it's quite wonderful. And when I do parish visits, I try to visit the churches here who have partners in the United States, in Lower Susquehanna Synod, and bring greetings from the home congregation, the partner congregation, and the synod. Bring photographs, newsletters. I try to contact the synod church before I make a visit, to give them the opportunity to write a letter of greeting or gather photographs or whatever. Sometimes they don't answer, or sometimes the visit gets planned at the last moment and I don't have time to contact them, in which case I just grab whatever I can off their website and print it out and take it along. So I provide the congregation, the parish here in the diocese, with this information. So they have some, interesting news and information about how their partner parish works. And then I send them a written report after that. I have, in a couple cases, visited parishes and sent a report and get a response back from the pastor that we didn't know we had a partnership. We didn't know this existed. They're very surprised. And some of those, create an interest and begin a resuscitation of the partnership. So it's a good thing. And then when I get, when I visit the United States, I try to visit those churches whose partners I have visited here, or other churches who invite me because they want to hear more about this. And I'll happily talk about the partnership until I'm hoarse. So that's communication, and that's also education, because there a lot of people in Lower Susquehanna Synod who just have lost knowledge of the partnership. Or I actually had somebody write me an email last week and tell me that they were under the misconception that their partnership with Konde Diocese had ended in 2009, when the decision about homosexual pastors was made. They believed that the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Tanzania had broken with the ELCA, and that we no longer had any kind of a partnership. So I corrected that misconception. But there's that kind of misinformation is out there, and in fact there are some churches even in the Konde Diocese who are not aware that they have partners, because they haven't heard from them in so many years. So teaching about the partnership and what it can do, the connections that that I'm able to make, because I'm in a place where I have unlimited internet, and I can send emails all day long to churches in the United States if I want to, send stuff back and forth and make phone calls. And I stand as the kind of middleman between. So I'm working on the communication and education about the partnership. Another one of the things that I have done since I got here is to make our financial transactions a little more transparent. For as long as the partnership has existed, Lower Susquehanna Synod has sent money to the diocese, at least for the last many years, on a quarterly basis. And it just went to the diocese account, the general diocese account, and then we sent an email with instructions to the diocese to disperse it in this way. Like, $500 of this is for Elege, and $200 of it is for scholarships at Mono or whatever. We have always trusted that the diocese has distributed the money the way we directed them to, but we've never had any proof or assurance that they did so. And now that I'm here, I can provide that assurance. I asked the diocese with the backing of Bishop Dunlop, I requested that the diocese provide me with proof that they had transferred various monies into the bank accounts of the parishes or institutions that they were supposed to go to, so that we had proof that that the end target was actually getting their money. And I'm happy to say that the diocese has been very cooperative with that, and they provide me with that information, so that I can absolutely assure people in the United States in Lower Susquehanna Synod that their money is going where they wanted it to go. I'm also able to provide more direction to some of those donations. For example, a congregation might send a large sum of money, say $1,000, to their partner parish, but $250 of that is meant as a gift for the evangelist, and $250 of it is meant for the women's group, and the rest is meant for general use in the parish. And sometimes those directions didn't come to the diocese, or even if they came to the diocese did not pass them on to the parish. The diocese would just deposit money into the parish's account, and sometimes not even tell them that they were depositing money into their account. So sometimes the parishes didn't even know they were getting money in their account. So I have started to I get to review the wire transfer before it's actually sent with all the directions. And I have been, once the wire transfer is made, I communicate with the district pastors to let them know which parishes in their district will be receiving money. And I'm able to tell them exactly how much money they're getting in shillings, because the diocese sends me the report. And the district pastors are delighted to receive this information, because they had never been part of this process before, and they didn't know. I asked them, when I informed them of an incoming donation, I asked them to check with the parish to make sure that the deposit was made in the parish's account, and to report back to me if it isn't. And there have been one or two occasions where a deposit took longer than it should have, or the parish just didn't check it correctly. But they all got cleared up. So I've had good success with that. It's really helpful working with the district pastors. When I first came to Konde Diocese, I worked with Bishop Moikali, and the bishop's a busy man, and there wasn't a whole lot I could get done. And shortly after I arrived, we were in the midst of the conflict between Bishop Moikali, the previous bishop, and Bishop Mwaki Haba, the current bishop. So I wasn't getting much done anyway. When Bishop Mwaki Haba was elected, he gave me to the dean, the assistant to the bishop, because the partnership with Lower Susquehanna Synod is under the responsibility of the dean. So I related to the dean, and still do, but related only to the dean for quite a while. But that became challenging, because the dean also is a very busy man. He represents the bishop on many occasions. He heads many committees, has many meetings, travels a lot, and he wasn't always available to me to help with parish visits, and even to answer questions, to get information, and so on. So he finally passed me on to the district pastors, who are generally much more accessible. And so that's been a good working relationship. I've gotten to know all the district pastors. They all speak English, some of them better than others, but we do okay. My fractured Swahili and their fractured English, we get along. And so I'm able to get more things done and get more information faster from the district pastors than I get from the dean. So that's been helpful.
April.
Yeah.
How many district pastors are there?
8.
8.
There are 8. Yeah. Yeah. They've had 7 districts for a very long time, and they just recently established a new one in the far southwest corner of the diocese, which is not very populated with churches. So it's kind of a mission district. Interestingly, the former southwest corner of the diocese became its own diocese 10 years ago. That was called the mission area, and it has become Lake Tanganyika district, or Lake Tanganyika diocese. And the first bishop of Lake Tanganyika diocese was Ambele Mwaipopo, who graduated from Gettysburg Seminary in 1995. He just retired after 10 years of service, and his replacement is Imani Chibona, who also studied at Gettysburg Seminary. So we kind of, even though Lake Tanganyika diocese is now its own diocese and doesn't have a partner, we kind of have some connection with them. But again, they don't have very many churches in that area. It's just not an area widely populated by Lutherans. They have more Catholics and Episcopalians than they do Lutherans. So that has become a separate diocese, and now we've got the mission district in the southwest corner, where I think they hope to establish more churches. So yes, Ursula.
Does Tanzania take any refugees currently?
I have no idea. Well, yes, they do. I was going to say I have no idea, but they do.
Is it an overwhelming problem, or is it just people who trickle across the border?
It's people who trickle across. It's people who trickle across the border, and they're coming mostly from like the Sudan, I think. There was some months ago, there was a lot in the news about immigrants being like truckloads of immigrants being caught in the northern part of the country who had just come across the border.
Are the borders protected? Or are they?
Well,
are they wide open?
They are. They have immigration services, and they have stops at immigration and whatnot, all around. But Tanzania is bordered by, I forget, 8 different countries or something like that. So it's a big border to protect, and especially in the south, Malawi and Zambia, a lot of people come up that way. They're coming from anywhere in South Africa. First of all, there's a lot of truck traffic because the Tanzam highway, the Tanzania-Zambia highway, which goes all the way through Tanzania into Zambia, actually continues all the way to South Africa. So there's a lot of trucking traffic that is hauling things that from South Africa into Tanzania. There's a lot of stuff from Malawi also that comes through, which is why the Tanzam highway coming through Mbeya is so crowded. And thankfully, they are working on expanding it to 4 lanes instead of just 2. Someday they'll finish that project and it'll be a nice highway to travel. It's not a very nice highway to travel right now. But those aren't immigrants. Those are just truck drivers. I haven't really heard that it's a huge problem.
Do you drive in Tanzania?
Yes, I do. Yes. Yes, not, I don't go out into the bush so much anymore because I just don't like it. It's, when I worked in for the St. Paul Area Synod in Iringa for 3 years, I drove everywhere. I was the driver. And, it's, the roads are the rough roads are hazardous. During the rainy season, they're muddy, full of holes. You risk falling off the side of a mountain because this is the southern highlands of Tanzania.
Wow, okay.
Um, and as I've gotten older, I've just, lost my taste for that adventure. So I don't drive
You
on
don't need
out.
that now.
Yeah, I don't need that anymore. So if I'm going out anywhere out in the bush, I stop at the diocese office and pick up a driver and take him and let him drive the car into the bush. So I'm capable. I'm just not willing anymore to do that. But on the paved roads, not that that's any not a whole lot less dangerous, I guess. Even though it's tarmac road, many of them are not in good shape. Cliff can attest to this. Full of potholes, very much like Pennsylvania roads, full of potholes, and no shoulders on the road, and people walking along the road. Of course, that no night lights, so after dark, people are just walking along the road, and which is why I don't drive after dark.
Sure.
You know,
Can I ask another question?
sure.
When Stan Reap comes with his group, are they going to be in your care the entire time, or part of the time, any of the time?
They're going to be under my care most of the time that they are here. Yes.
Okay. And are they
Um,
going to visit their partner church or a specific church? Can you talk about their trip?
they'll be visiting a lot of churches, I think. They will, when they arrive here, they will stay in 2 nights in Dar es Salaam, where they fly into, and then they are coming to flying to Mbeya, where they will be greeted by the diocese and me, and we will have lunch at one of the churches in Mbeya. And then we will stop to see the new hospital that's still under construction, and then we will head to Tukuyu, which is an hour and a half to 2 hour drive, 75 kilometers to Tukuyu. They will stay 4 nights in Tukuyu. Because the group is so large, they will be divvying themselves up so that on the next day, some of them will be going to Mono, Lutheran Junior Seminary. So they will study, the church and education. Some of them will be going to Itete Hospital to study the church and healthcare. Some of them will be staying in Tukuyu and visiting probably the cathedral, the seat of the bishop. And looking at how the church functions, just how it functions. But they'll be in Tukuyu. They may visit some other churches as well around Tukuyu. And then there are 7 people under the age of 16 who are in this group, and so we are hoping to get them attached to a youth leader and go off on a little adventure of their own.
Wow.
Hiking or sightseeing or something on that day, but also getting a chance to talk about youth activities, because the youth movement in Tanzania is humongous.
Wow.
That's where most of the pastors come from. If you would talk to Moses Kavishe, who's at Camp Hill, Moses came up through that system. They call it Uwata, and he said there's so many of the young people are so lit on fire. I think that's the wording he used. They are lit on fire by the stuff they do in their youth camps and meetings and whatnot. And they're just burning with desire to become pastors. More of them than the diocese can handle, I think, because the diocese actually pays for the education of all its, they call it, all theological students are called theologians.
Okay.
That's their name for them. And the diocese pays for all of their education, which is got to be very costly. So there's a limit to how many they can have at any one time, of course. And I really doubt that they take all the youth who would like to be pastors. So that's, yeah, so the group will do that. And then that'll be on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday they'll probably be doing some things in Mpaguso, which is their partner congregation. It's about 10 kilometers outside of Tukuyu. It's very close. So they don't have, they will not be staying overnight in their partner village, but they can easily get back and forth. Sunday, actually, the church is laying or dedicating the cornerstone to their new church building, which St. Paul's has been sending money for some years. And the church is not finished, but it's finished enough that they can use it for worship. So they will be dedicating the cornerstone, and St. Paul's will be there for that. And so will the bishop and the dean and, a lot of people on the diocese staff. And it's going to be a big party, big party. So I'm thinking maybe on Saturday, some of the members of the group will go to Mpaguso on Saturday and maybe visit some of their preaching points or get a chance to talk with the partnership committee and things like that, because Sunday is just going to be party, party, party. Big celebration. So they may, yes, they will visit their partner parish. And then they go after that weekend, 4 days in Tukuyu, they go to Matema for a day. Which is Matema's on Lake Nyasa. It's very tropical and beautiful, and just a nice place to take a little vacation. And they'll stay there overnight, and then the next day they will go from Matema to Iringa and stay overnight there. And then the next day they will do a day safari to Ruaha National Park and come back. They could have stayed in the park, but the next day they have to fly back to Dar. And it didn't make any sense to stay in the park. So I arranged for them to just do the day safari and come back and have lodging in Iringa. And then the next day they will fly back to Dar. And that's where they will leave me.
That's about a 10-day trip.
It's yeah, they arrive on they leave the States on the 10th, and they will end up back in the States on the let's see, 13, 20, on the 21st. Yeah. That's a pretty average itinerary, actually. That's a fairly average itinerary.
Wow.
Yeah. And they're going to get, while they're in Dar, because they're spending an extra day, they thought they were going to be flying into Dar later than they actually are. And which is why they scheduled to stay 2 nights in Dar. Now they're flying in earlier, so they have 2 full days in Dar. So they're going to take advantage of that extra day and probably go to Zanzibar. Some of them are going to go to Zanzibar anyway, which is a nice little side trip. You can take the hydrofoil across the whatever it is, ocean, bay. I'm not even sure what channel. I'm quite sure what that body of water is called.
Fjord.
Yeah, but yeah, Zanzibar is an interesting place to visit because it's mostly Muslim. It was established by the Arabs. You can still see a lot of you can definitely see a lot of Middle Eastern, Arabic influences in their architecture. It's got some. It was the place on the east coast of Africa where all the slaves were kept that had been captured and were being shipped to the Far East.
Wow.
They were kept in Zanzibar. So there's a slave market, old buildings and whatnot to be seen, and Freddie Mercury's house, because Freddie Mercury was born in Zanzibar.
Really?
Yeah, I found that out when I was there. Yep, had no idea. I mean, I barely knew who Freddie Mercury was. I was never a Queen fan, except for, the song "We Are the Champions." And so when I found out who Freddie Mercury was and that he had been born there, I went to the house.
What's the
Pretty-
Muslim population in Tanzania, percentage-wise? Guesstimate.
25% or thereabouts. Maybe a little less than that.
Is
Not
there,
very high. And it's mostly Zanzibar and the coastline.
is there tension? Is it just folks
There's
get
no
along?
tension. There's no tension. They all get along with each other very well.
Wow, that's
We
nice.
should be so lucky in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no tension. I mean,
Do you have
there
any-
are, go ahead. Yeah.
Do you have any relationships with the Episcopal Church or the other churches that are, or the Anglican?
There is a Tanzania Council of Churches, and most regions, the governmental regions, have local councils of churches also, and the Lutherans are very involved in that. So Episcopalians, Nazarenes, Moravians, Anglicans, and Catholics, they would be the biggest denominations that they associate with. There's a lot of Assemblies of God here, but most of the more fundamental and Pentecostal kinds of what we would think of as Pentecostal
Mhm.
churches are not. I don't think they play as well. Not that there's any hostility, but they just don't get involved in that kind of stuff
Mhm.
mostly. Yeah, honestly, if you saw a Lutheran worship service here, you might think the Lutherans are Pentecostals
Mhm.
here, the way they worship.
Do you have colleagues in any of those churches? Like, oh, I know the Episcopal priest down the road. You have any of those relationships with those folks?
No, not personally.
Okay,
I don't.
just curious.
Although I have a Bible study group that I go to on Thursdays, and I'm the only Lutheran there. There's a number of them from, they work, well, they're from a lot of different places. There's a bunch of them that work for, I forget the name of it, and it's the Wycliffe Bible Translators is
Oh, okay.
basically what it is, except the international version of it. So a lot of them do that, and they're working on translating the Bible from, into a lot of the local languages, of which there are many in this area. And they all belong to different churches. But that particular organization is not, I don't think, associated with one particular church. So the missionaries there's just all kinds. Some are independent. There's a woman from New Zealand here who is the only member of her church. I don't know how she ever got here or how her church established this, but she runs an orphanage.
Wow.
For her church. There was another woman who just left a couple months ago, moved back to Canada, who came as an individual from her church in Canada, to establish a Montessori school for children. And she was here for over 20 years and just went back to Canada. So there's all kinds.
Yeah.
There's a big denomination around this area called Mbalizi Evangelical Church, because the town of Mbalizi is just outside Mbeya. It was founded by the Swiss, I think. Some Swiss missionaries came and they just founded one church, which they called the Mbalizi Evangelical Church. And it has turned into a denomination, actually. in Tanzania. And MEC has, at least in Imbalisi and the surrounding areas, has become a large enterprise. They have a vocational school, they have a nursing school, they have a hospital. They do a lot of different things, and they also have a resort, which is just down the road from the Lutheran resort in Matema, where a lot of people go to visit. So that's another big one. And so they often get a lot of Swiss people coming to work in their hospital. Not just doctors and nurses, but accountants and administrators and things like that. Yeah, so it's an interesting international community.
Sure.
But there's religiously, there's not any difference. I mean, there, no conflict, except between, at the moment, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Tanzania and the East Africa Lutheran Church. If you're going to have a conflict, or two denominations that won't cooperate with each other, those
Right.
two. Yeah. What time is it? It's almost time. Let's see. Yeah, what else can I tell? I can tell you a few of the things that we're working on. We have a pastor in the diocese, Subilanga Mwakita Lima, who is coming to work at Kirchenwald this summer as a camp counselor. We tried last year to get her and a male pastor from Konde into to get them visas to work at Kirchenwald as counselors, and we started the whole process too late, and the embassy wouldn't. They wanted a whole lot more information. It was a ridiculous process. So this year we went through the ELCA International Camp Counselors Program, and we got Subi and Sever. They were both accepted, but Severin didn't get his visa for whatever reason. He didn't get it, but Subi will be coming. So this is something we're going to try to keep on going on a more regular basis now that we know the process and how long it takes. That we will try to keep sending counselors for the summer camp, and I mentioned the students getting pastors to come and study at Gettysburg Seminary. It's another thing I'd like to get going. We've started. One of the new things that started since I came here was the Widows Fund. It was a project that one of the district pastors who studied at Gettysburg had an idea about some time ago, and he had contacted a member of the Konde committee about this idea, and she finally she got a grant to fund it, and gave some gift money that she had received for her an ordination anniversary, and we sent that money to the diocese for seed money, and they set up the Widows Fund, which is a program to provide microloans, very small loans, to widows, so that they can start their own business and have a little bit of an income and livelihood, because sometimes widows are not treated well here. Sometimes they lose all their property. If the husband's family wants to, if he dies, they can come in and they can kick her out of the house, kick her off the land, take everything if they want to. And sometimes they're left with nothing. So that program has been working. They gave loans to 50 widows with that first amount of money, and all of the widows have paid their money back with interest.
Nice.
And so we're starting on the second round of that. So that's a nice thing to have happen. We've seen a little bit of an increase in the money that goes to Matemo Bible College, which is where all the evangelists are trained. The evangelists are important to the church here because, at least in Konde, we don't have enough pastors to serve all the parishes. But beyond that, parishes have preaching points, like, satellite churches. And some of them have 7 or 8 or 10. Some of them have only 1 or 2, but many of them have a number of satellite sites, and the pastor, cannot serve them all. So evangelists who are trained at Matemo Bible College for 3 years are the ones who lead those congregations. But the evangelists are usually just members of the community. They are not paid by the diocese as the pastors are. They get some money out of the offering plate is usually what they get, if they get anything at all. And the parish itself is responsible. If they want an evangelist, they have to pay for the training. Send somebody to Matemo Bible College. So in communicating this, I've gotten some congregations to be more aware of this idea, and they are sending money to their partners specifically for the education of evangelists at Matemo Bible College. So education is, they love education. The Konde committee has pledged $8,000 a year worth of scholarships to Mono Lutheran Junior Seminary. That's about 12 scholarships a year or thereabouts. To support them. We were just, channeling through whatever donations we got. And instead we said, okay, we're going to tell them they're going to get at least $8,000 a year from us for scholarships. But there's other education. There's the evangelist education, and there's the theologian's education, the students. We could help the diocese with that. So there are just lots of things I would like to do. Slowly. So, any final questions? Denise, is your church interested in something? Or
Not
you were
really.
just interested?
I just wanted to see you and hear what you had
Oh.
to say.
Well, thanks. Well, I'm available, when I'm in the
Okay.
States, I'm always available to come and talk if
I'll keep it in mind.
think you went. Yeah. We actually have about 23, I counted them today, about 23 churches in the synod who don't have partners, but who have given money to the Konde Fund in about over the last 3 years or so. Some of them give quite regularly. They donate to pastor salaries, or they donate scholarship money or whatever. And we're thankful for them that they contribute to Konde. So I'm thankful for everybody. And thank you for your interest. And Ursula, when you have you're having a conference meeting, right? Soon? You mentioned
we just, we're having one on Tuesday. Will you be around? I didn't say you were coming again.
5:30 p.m. is when I arrive on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. You'll kind of miss us.
Yeah, I guess I will.
How long are you
well.
staying?
3 weeks.
All right, we missed the other one too.
Yeah, because I have to come back and be with the St. Paul's group. So
Okay, well, I will give you their, I will give them your blessing or your,
yes, please
tell them you
do.
said hi.
Please do. I'll be back in September probably.
Okay,
Yep.
very good. Thanks
All
for
right.
your,
Thank you all very much. Denise, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Take care.
And I hope I planted a little seed.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah. Thanks, Ursula. Bye.
Thank you.